I guess I should have asked this early on. It's a great studio. Thank you for being in here with it. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Why did we do this in a plane?
We should have totally done it in a plane. That was so cool.
Okay, all right. So
That's a big one we could go inside.
that would be awesome. All right. So now,
All right, you know what? Let's just redo.
scrap. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, powered by Braden. This is your front row seat to the stories of local leaders, both nonprofit and for-profit, who are shaping our community. Every episode brings you leadership insights, lessons from challenges, and practical strategies you can use today. And yes, we'll keep it real and have some fun along the way. If you're ready to elevate your leadership, hit subscribe and follow us on LinkedIn for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Now, let's dive in. Hey everybody, Jason Olm here with another episode of the Elevate Podcast powered by Braden. I'm with my new friend, Quinn, and I'll tell you, the first time we met, go over to your office, we come in, we're walking back, beautiful place by the way. Starts out with a bang, didn't it? Literally starts it off into the back. This truck runs into the back of another truck. It's semi, it was unbelievable. You ever seen it outside the building? You could feel it in the building. And so from now until eternity, I remember the first day that I met you because of what happened outside your office. So Quinn, welcome to the show. And I got to say, I'm excited for this one. There's a couple of things, and
Probably similar to everybody, don't you?
well, a little bit similar, but not always the same. And I will say what's a little bit unique about your story, and I know we'll get to it, we'll walk through your story, but there's a couple of things that I found unique in some research on you. Is one, you talk about your core values of your business, but you also are emailing and talking about those things 20 to 30 times a week. So I want to make sure I hear about that.
Sure.
The other is, I know you're talking to some of those kiddos that are coming out of high school that aren't quite sure what they're going to do next. And you got some programs for them to be able to do something in the career with aviation that maybe doesn't take quite as long. And then I think there's some cool things there for some of those folks to listen to. But for a guy who's got kind of gasoline in your veins, you like things that go fast, right? And burn fuel. Love every second of that. So Quinn, tell us a little bit about you and just what you're doing at Jet Access Group first to get it started.
Thank you for having me, Jason. I'm glad to be here. We're going to have some fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so a little bit of my story about me, CEO of Jet Access. I guess some people would say I'm new to all this, but it feels like it's been 6 years now I've been in aviation.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So, we got into that in 2019, but I guess my story in business starts way before. I'm so thankful to have the parents that I have. Sure. So I grew up in a family that business was the main topic. So my parents started a fuel distribution business in 1979. It was such a cool story because my dad had this great job at Shell. And he was moving through the executive ranks. He was getting moved all around the Midwest. And then he really performed well on this sales campaign that they have. And he was getting ready to move to the big house in Houston. And my parents, particularly my father, when he graduated Purdue, he said, I want to get out of Indiana. Indiana's not the place I want to be.
Okay.
It's boring, it's corn. And what he ended up finding out after getting moved all around is family really matters. And he wanted my sister and I to have a relationship with our grandparents.
Oh, okay.
And both my parents did. And that wasn't going to happen if there were to be corporate babylons all over the country, all over the world, potentially.
Yeah.
So they ended up making a decision. And I think it's one of the gutsiest decisions that they've made in their lives, to leave this safe, corporate, high-paying job to take a risk on being an entrepreneur and going out and getting with a business broker and finding some businesses.
Yeah.
And I talked to my father later. I'm like, Dad, do you realize how risky that was to leave this great gig that you had? He's like, nah, didn't really think about it. And I mean, it was so high risk. They had financing lined up with the bank. And the bank pulled out on them at the last minute, and they had to go to my father's parents, mortgage their house. My mother's parents had the cash, and that's actually how they funded buying the business, because the bank pulled out last minute.
You're kidding me.
Super, it's just an unbelievable family story, a business story.
Yeah.
But they grew that business, fuel distribution all through it was the Anderson, Indiana area, Madison County, Henry County. continued to buy more of those businesses. I actually thought my name was Quinn Ricker Oil. So because I was at my mom's feet all day long. So dad's out driving the trucks everywhere.
Okay.
Making sales calls, filling up homes with home heating oil, small gas stations, farms with diesels. So out of the field,
He's moving fuel around.
he's moving fuel around. My mom is taking orders, doing the books, and I sat at her feet, and she'd say, "Yeah, thank you for calling Ricker Oil. This is Nancy. How can I help you?" So I kind of literally, when somebody would ask my name when I was young, I say, "It's Quinn Ricker Oil." They still kind of laugh about that. I was always around business. So my parents, 50-50 partners in the business.
Okay.
They were out doing their thing. All the mom was here, there, in the office. Dad was out and about making sales calls, doing deliveries. Then they had a team, and dad was still out and about growing the business, and mom was the controller of the company. And they get to really see each other much during the day. And every night at the dinner table, it was them catching up on what was going on at the business.
Okay. That was their business meeting at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I got to participate in that. I think I kind of learned through osmosis, and I also got a passion for business through osmosis.
Right. I mean, well, it's interesting that both your mom and dad are 50-50 in the business. So they get started in 79, and the business grows over time. How does your story kind of go with that? Obviously, you go through school, get into college. When do you start to get into the business? Or is that your first job out of college?
Well, I'm pretty confident some child labor laws were broken. Very confident. Not just. The only reason I didn't break child labor laws is because I was blood.
Yeah, that's right.
So they got a pass on that one. I started mowing lawns when I was a kid.
Okay.
Then I worked on our bulk plants, moving around drums of oil. I rang the register. I worked a third shift. The worst call you could get was 10:10 at night.
Yeah.
I knew it's that, and it was almost always like 10:10, 10:11. When you got that call, you knew that call was the second shifter calling you. The third shifter wasn't showing up because like started out as fuel distribution, it moved into convenience stores.
So they evolved over time. When did they get into the convenience store?
So call it late 80s, early 90s, they got into the convenience store side of the business. And they said, and that was a really credit to my father, who said, I don't believe that the future is filling up these small farms with diesel for the tractors and home heating oil to heat the homes. We need to get into the convenience side of them. My dad had a really great gut instinct for business, and particularly for real estate.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's when I start to remember things. It's kind of late 80s, early 90s when I started mowing the lawns and working in the stores. So I did that all through high school, all through college. Actually, my father tricked me. This funny story. He's like, so I'm coming back from my my freshman year in college. And I'm like, hey, Dad, what do you want me to do at the company this summer over summer break? He's like, we're going to do data entry. And I'm like, okay. So the computer input some, no. The first store he sends me to, and this was not commonplace, but they had the issue right before I came back from college. And the manager, the assistant manager, and like 3/4 of the staff were selling things they should not be selling out of the store.
Oh,
and we had to clear up. And we should have 13, 14 people in the store. And you had 2. So I was sent over to do all the paperwork, put up the inventory, try to help the district managers rehire. So I was there from 6 a.m. to, I was there till 11 p.m. putting up the truck.
no kidding.
Yeah. So it was total trial by fire. And, part of it, a lot of it was not fun. I'm so thankful that my parents had me do every single thing there. I mean, there wasn't a job in that company when at least it came to the stores or operations and so I hadn't done. So it gave me credibility for when the day that I wanted to come back.
Yeah, of course.
So I go through Purdue. I do that job every summer, go to Purdue.
What were you studying at Purdue? What were you thinking you were going to do? And what were you?
I always knew I was going to come back to the company. I just knew it in my heart, but this is a place I want to be. I love our people. I want to affect people. I enjoyed working with my parents. So I always feel as I come back. My parents did something really important. They said, if you want to come back to the company, that's fine. But you got to go spend 5 years somewhere else. It was hugely important. I don't think enough family businesses have, they had the kids do that.
That's an interesting story, right? Because a lot of folks, you come right back into the family business. All of your experience is in one place, right? So, okay, what are you studying for small business? Sorry, that was the question. Straight it up. So you're studying small business at Purdue. You finish up. They tell you got to go work, and they said 5 years. Yeah, a long time. So 5 years after Purdue, where do you go? What are you thinking you want to do to maybe go gain some experience?
So I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. And I give my parents a hard time about like not getting me some guidance. But I had a good friend get me. Actually, it's about 2 driver hits away from where we're standing right now.
Okay. All right.
Got the opportunity to work at Charles Schwab.
Okay.
So I didn't like Purdue. Like I shouldn't say I like Purdue. I didn't like education. It never made sense to me.
Okay.
Like the things I was studying, like why am I studying like trigonometry and calculus and all these things, like psychology and sociology, and I guess maybe there's some applicability to that. None of the classes have never really resonated with me. Like I've always in my life needed a why. Why am I learning this? How is this applicable to me?
Yeah, sure.
And through high school and through college, I never felt like I got that. And it was always some test, some presentation. You had to get some project that was due. And when I don't have a purpose, when I don't feel like I have a purpose for something, it's hard for me to kind of get behind that. So I thought, I'm graduating from Purdue. I'm never going to take another test again. This is awesome. So then I ended up getting a job at Charles Schwab. Well, you know what you have to do? You got to get your Series 7. You got to get your Series 63. And I'm like, dang it, all right. I thought, all right, this, all right. So that was, I think I got there June of 2000. Well, you probably remember what was starting to happen at June in 2000. So I worked there for, I think, 9 months. I was the number 2 inside all of Charles Schwab for the most important initiative, help and advice. Charles Schwab never gave advice to their clients. It was just discount stockbroker.
Okay.
And I ended up getting laid off. I'm like, wait a minute. I just referred over $24 million into this program. I'm doing really well. And it kind of taught me a lesson, like, sometimes it just doesn't matter. Things are out of your control. It's like, just because you work hard, negative things should happen. It's just, but hey, it's just life, and you grow from it and you learn.
Yeah.
So then I ended up getting the opportunity to work at Bank One, and then that became JP Morgan Chase. And I think it was one of the coolest things to be able to go into a large organization like that. They had 150, 200,000 employees. By the time they merged with Bank One merged with JP Morgan, it was full 500,000 employees. It was pretty amazing to see that. And I got to work under what I think is one of the icons of CEOs of the last 50 years of Jamie Dimon. I didn't work with him directly, but I had sure. You get to feel his strategy as you're working there, how they're changing the business. And I got to shake his hand, which was really cool. I didn't wash my hand for a week.
Well, wait a second. So we've washed it since then. I was going to say, actually, by your advice, so maybe did I inadvertently shake his hand?
You did.
So, I'm one hand check away from Jamie Dimon.
Yes, you are.
Unbelievable. Okay.
So our failing business was entrepreneurial, maybe not so numbers centric, a lot of gut instinct, which served us very well.
Sure.
That, quick decision making, that juxtaposed with you've got this massive financial behemoth, JP Morgan, that had lots of process.
Yeah.
Huge scalable systems, pointing hundreds of thousands of people in a similar direction, but from bureaucracy. So I get to see both sides. Like, really the ideal scenario, I think, for a business is if you can combine great systems and, the right compensation, fixed and variable, and the right processes, but still has some gut, be lean, quick decision making. If you can put all that together, that's kind of like the holy grail.
Okay.
So I'm so thankful for my time at JP Morgan. And then my parents got me again. So you remember when I went to Bank One, I had to get my life and health, and I thought, surely I'm not going to have any other tests again. So I got my life and health license. I called my parents about 4.5 years in. I say, hey, 4.5 years in, I have a passion for our business. I want to come back. why, what are you guys thinking? Like, we're really glad you proved yourself. We want you to come back. Hey, we've got a lot of legal bills here. We want you to get your law degree.
This what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I wish I was. So I said, talk to some of my friends and some of my lawyer friends. They're like, you can't get your law degree and like be an effective general counsel of the company. You have to practice for a while.
Yeah.
They said, you really ought to get your MBA. So Anderson University had a great night course there. I got my MBA in about 2.5 years.
Okay.
That was the first education that I really enjoyed because like, all right, I'm in business.
Yep.
I'm getting a master's in business. The things I was learning in those classes, I could directly apply to. You were a partial battle license, but that's great. Probably some of the more challenging courses I took, but the best grades I got were my MBA because, all right, this makes sense to me. Of course, this I can apply this. This is useful. So, yeah, I did that. Came back, and yeah.
So at this point, you joined the company. I see. So you're working at the family business. You're getting your MBA. What's your role in the business? What do you come back? You've done everything. What do you come back and what do you start to do?
So I come back and it was just like some total fluff position. It was like director of petroleum operations. It was nothing. Like it was just like, we're going to give you a job and we'll figure out something. But so we still had a fuel distribution side of the business. By that point in time, we had supplied. If you're a independent single site operator, you can't go directly to BP or Marathon or Exxon. You have to go through something called a jar.
Okay.
Which is what we work. So that was about 10% of what we did, but 90% of what the business worked on was convenience operations. And that's what I always worked at.
Yep.
So I go to my father. Actually, mentors have been such a huge part of my life. My parents have been great mentors. I had 2 district managers that I grew up with in the stores, and they taught me so much about convenience stores and how to lead people. They came back to me after about 4 months, 5 months of being back in the business. They said, Quinn, we need your help. Because when I left the business, the operations were pretty good. The systems were pretty good. By the time I came back, something wasn't right. Like our people were really struggling with our systems. We changed systems. It was all about getting paperwork done. Okay. It wasn't about leading people and building relationships and sales and cleanliness and operations. It was just get the dang paperwork done so we can get the numbers.
Okay.
And so I talked to Judy and Tracy, wonderful people, and they said, Quinn, we need you. So one of the great things about my father is usually first-gen entrepreneurs, they're micromanagers.
Yeah.
Because when you're starting out, you have to do everything.
You do everything.
You don't have the finance to be able. So, but that's not in my father. And my father has always been a big delegator. I don't know, he just managed it well. He did grind in his early days, absolutely, and wore lots of hats. Once he got to a spot where he built, larger enterprise, he delegated.
Yeah.
And so I went to him. I said, "Hey, I think we have some problems in operations." And by the way, at this point in time in my career, I've managed no more than like 10 or 11 people at a convenience store.
Yeah.
And you had 4 or 5 bankers for financial services. I said, "Hey, Dad, I think we got some problems. I'm confident I can solve them." Talk to Judy and Tracy. I want to run operations for the company. And this is like 200 people that will be reporting.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds fine. Just go tell the current guy who's running it that you're running it now." Oh my God. I was so naive and ignorant, but in part, because I cared so much. I cared about the people.
Sure.
I cared about building a great company. I cared about my family. So we went to work. We gutted every single system. I was actually director of IT as well as director of operations.
Also, Kenny picked up the tech side too.
Because I had to, because that was where one of our major issues were. So I ended up, I gutted every system except for Microsoft Office, Microsoft Windows, which this is going to come back again in a little bit, and a fuel pricing software we had. We gutted every system we had. New accounting, new BI, new store operations, new point of sale. Our managers had not had, some of them had been on call for a year or more.
Wow.
because we didn't have enough managers, or we didn't have assistant manager system. We didn't have a succession plan for, assistant managers. So I'm like, all right, first two things we got to do, we got to fix our systems. We got to fix some cultural things, because it was the stores serve the office. And I think that's wrong. Nobody in that office has a job.
Yeah. And if you don't have that store.
If you don't have that store. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fix this. I'm like, I made it very clear, we're here to take care of these stores, these managers. So that's what makes this company.
Yeah.
So fix some cultural things with that. And then we had to get our managers back up to get assistant manager. It was easy fixes. But yeah, with our new systems, we went from having really no control of the data to massive control. We even are paying for that integration for our new software in I think it was 5 or 6 months. I mean, this was a multi-$100,000 implementation.
Yeah, sure.
And it just, from the loss that we could control, we could pay for it in months.
Wow.
So there was, I mean, I really kind of made a name for myself and gave credibility through that process. And it was so important that we did that, because another thing that I learned from my father is, relationships really matter. It makes sure it's a win-win. And so many people that were in my father's position in the industry were very adversarial with the oil companies. My dad is a great politician. And he, where other people in his role, business owners that had a supplier relationship with BP or Marathon or Exxon or whoever, they would just go at these executives. It was just very adversarial. And my dad would do that. Plus, we ran C-store operations, which a lot of them, they distributed fuel.
Yeah.
And so they respected us, because that was the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
So BP came to us and said, we are selling every single store basically east of the Mississippi. We're going to sell the Indianapolis market, Cleveland market, Atlanta market, Miami market, Columbus market, Cleveland market, Pittsburgh market. You're here in the Indianapolis area. You don't have any stores. And we intentionally didn't have stores in Indianapolis because BP was our brand and they were down there. So they owned tickets.
Yeah.
This was a transformational deal for us. So they came to us and they said, hey, we're going to sell these. We're not going to tell you what the price is, but if you meet our price, they're yours. We're not going to let anybody else bid on this.
Really?
So this was going to double our store count. So we had to get all these things from, it delivered to us a major metro area where we could market.
Yeah.
So that we knew we had to get our ducks in order, but we didn't know when they were going to come. They came to us about 2 weeks after we went live with our new system. They said, hey, it's time. Well, this is, I want to call it I think it was April 2008.
Okay.
If you remember, what went on, I did for House 8. And actually, I just finished on the way here. I'm not kidding you. I just finished Too Big to Fail by Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Oh yeah, sure.
I mean, it's just it just gives you a play-by-play of everything that happened during that time period. I'm just reminiscing around, we had this deal come to us that was a game-changing deal. We had millions of dollars on hold with BP, and our bank said they were going to back us up, but we weren't sure our bank was even going to exist. The interest rate on some of our loans went up by 800 basis points one night.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. Yeah. And I learned more about business and finance during that period of time than I even learned during my MBA.
Oh yeah.
It's trying to double the size of your company, negotiate with a Fortune 15 company through a financial crisis when Bear Stearns has gotten taken over by JP Morgan. Lehman Brothers is blowing up.
Yeah.
And we're trying to close the biggest deal in the history, total economic, financial crisis. Yes. It was a lot of stress, and it was just one of the most phenomenal business experiences of my life.
I can only imagine, right? So you're navigating those waters, and clearly it goes through because you get the deal done, right? Because you end up in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And that's 2008. So how long are you guys running the stores before an exit?
We're supposed to be talking about jets, aren't we?
Well, we're getting there.
We're getting there. I love this story. It's just, I love our Ricker story.
Yeah.
I love our Jet Access story.
Well, when do we get out of the fuel and convenience store business?
So I became CEO in 2008, started running the kind of unofficial in 2008, officially in 2009, continued to grow the company. We grew it to about 800 employees, had a great run. But in, call it 14, 15, I'm starting to pay more attention to these electric cars. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a strategic threat. Yeah. And then there were some other strategic threats. We had, fuel miles per gallon was increasing. Fuel demand was starting to plateau or had demand destruction. Retail labor was becoming much more expensive. Yeah. And so by 2018, we actually had a company come to us that wanted to do a joint venture. They said, hey, we really respect our operations. By this time, and one of the things I should talk about just briefly that was such an important influence in my life during this time frame was the powers of mentors and peer groups.
Yeah.
And I had three mentors, a gentleman named Rick Deneau, who was an industry executive, CEO, banking guy, finance guy, phenomenal human being who really refined me and made me the leader that I am, the CEO that I am. Okay. The way I try to emulate being a CEO is from where I learned from Rick. And I had another gentleman in the convenience store business, Craig Parker, who's taught me metrics and grit and passion, drive. And he was in my peer group, and we just did so much with benchmarking, and that made us a top decile operator. So we were running this thing really well.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to do this for the rest of my life.
No kidding.
I did. I really did. And then like, all right, there's a lot of strategic headwinds, but hey, it's fine. We're one of the best operators. We'll be fine. But then we had this company come to us that wanted to do a joint venture with us. They had pipelines, they had trading, they had, storage tanks. They didn't know how to run the retail. And if retail's one of the hardest things you could do. So they said, hey, you're growing by 4 or 5 stores a year. And when I got into this, I said it was costing us maybe $800 to $1.2 million to build a store. By the time it's 2017, 2018, we're spending like $6 million just on like cash. I mean, these things, I show you pictures. Those last few we built were, they are stunning. Yeah. So they come to us and say, hey, why don't we invest in you, take a minority position? They're going to get some pretty serious controls though. And let's grow this from building 4 or 5 stores a year. Let's grow this to, building 10, 12, 15 stores a year. We're ready to hit the gas. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, this is interesting. I mean, if we always owned this business, I become a partner in the business with my parents by that point in time. I'm like, okay, this could be fun. Let's see how this turns out. So Corey Schneider, who was an analyst for us back then, and now CFO of Jet Access, I blamed him for selling the business. Like telling this all the time, it's not very true. But so Rick Deneau and Corey and I get to work, and we analyze. All right, we've got 2 paths. This joint venture where we will not have the whole pie, but the pie is going to be a lot bigger, and we're going on our own. Which looks better? And we mapped the business out 5 to 10 years. Okay. And when we got to the end of it, it was better doing the joint venture. But it sounds like a lot of money, but at the scale of what we were trying to build wasn't worth it was a few like $10, $20 million different in value. But we had to put up a bunch of headaches.
Yeah, right. Sure.
So we're like, I looked at the numbers and I had this very, very, thoughtful response to Corey when he puts up the numbers for the first time. I look at him, I go, Matt. Very CEO line, right?
Learned that here. I mean, classes. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was definitely in my finance course for a bit. So I'm like, all right, this doesn't make sense. But I went to my peer group, okay, and I acted like I was going to do the deal to them to see what they would say.
Okay, so you took it to them as this is the way I'm going.
I said, hey, here's a path, kind of really thinking hard about this. I'm going to go down this path. Yeah. And had a guy who was a former president of BP North America who would join we met 3 times a year. He would join us 1 time a year. Another gentleman who was a investment banker at JD Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank. And the guy from BP had moved on to running a publicly traded biotech company. He's a really sharp guy in finance.
Yeah.
And so I put up the numbers. And they're looking at him and they're like, wait a minute, Quinn, you only double your EBITDA over the next 10 years. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's it's a problem. I don't believe in we did this the best we could with the knowledge we had. So nobody had modeled our business out like that out of our group. And then the Deutsche Bank banker who was running his family business, convenience store business now, he says, wait a minute, that's like a 6% return. And then when he said that, it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. we're working our asses off and taking all this risk, and you don't have much liquidity because we invest everything back in the next build, the next build, the next build.
Yeah.
We're doing this for a bond return.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't feel right.
Yep.
So then the whole room starts erupting, going, wait, like Quinn, like, what are your sensitivities to this? I'm like, what the distance per gallon, this, inside sales and this growth. And then one of the other guys who's I've learned so much from, probably the best, he's the best retailer I know in the country, Dave Carpenter. He goes, if they come out with an electric car with a 600-mile battery tomorrow, our multiples are going to drop by 3 or 4 handles.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, and that meant a lot of money.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, so the whole group's just like, whoa. Like, we're all like debating, like, why are we doing this with you? Oh my gosh, this is like a revelation.
So I listened to the group and I said, actually, what I'm hearing is I need to change strategy. I need to go back and look at this as an exit, not as a joint venture. And went back home, did that, talked to some investment bankers, got with the right banker, Michael Johns, and we ended up going from, we think we're going to double down and grow the business in late 2017 to marketing the business by late spring of 18. And we were out in late November 18. I'm out of a job.
Well, that's pretty quick. I mean, it was within a year, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So now you sell the business.
Now I got to figure out what the heck to do with the rest of my life.
So this is where you start to think about what's going to be next. Is this where the jets come into play?
Well, I didn't. So I'm supposed to.
Okay.
Take 2 years off. I mean, I had a little coin jingle in my pocket. Have a little fun. Have a little fun. I'm going to take 2 years. I'm going to travel with wife Julie and kids and have fun. And I knew at some point in time I wanted to get back into business. And I knew I wanted it to be with 2 people. Jason Columbia, who was head of our operations at Ricker's, and Corey Schneider. And I had to be respectful. They had jobs and I had a non-solicit with them. So I had to be respectful of that. But at some point in time, I'd like to get back into business with them.
Okay.
Because I'm the, full throttle, optimism, everything's going to be great. Let's go. Don't pay attention to risk. Don't pay attention to the details. And they look at risk. They're going to read every line of the contract. They're going to be really thoughtful. And so I need them.
So
yeah, it is. And, I don't have both sides. I think probably most people don't, but many times they don't surround themselves with people who are the yins of the gang.
Right. Yeah.
And I have that with Jason and Corey. So, I ended up going out to Indianapolis Regional Airport, and I meet a few people there trying to get some hours on a plane. And they said, hey, you should come out here and be CEO. So they had 7 FBOs, mostly contract operated, about 37 employees, had a small flight school business and a small aircraft brokerage business. So this is like literally less than 30 days after we sold business.
When you're supposed to take 2 years, you're going to take 2 years off. Yeah, things change quick. Okay, so 30 days for us. So taking a look at this business out there.
And I told him, I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I'm supposed to be traveling, hanging out with Julie. No. So, but I stayed in contact with them as I got to know them a little bit better. I'm like, hey, this is an interesting business that is not, it needs a lot of help. It does not need a CEO. It needs an operations person, and it needs an accounting finance person. I'm like, hey, I can't talk to them, but I know 2 guys who are really perfect for this, and they're local.
Yeah.
So I told the ownership of the business, you ought to go talk to Jason and Corey. They ended up working out something with them. And then Jason and Corey and that team got presented an opportunity to buy half of a pretty sizable charter and management business in West Palm called Jet Access. I'm like, hey, Quinn, do you want to invest in this? I'm like, private jets? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I should back up a little bit. Through the last few years of us operating at Rickers, we had used business aviation some. And I always loved cars. I loved anything that goes fast. Yeah. And, I just, the engine, I actually built an engine in high school and that was fun. But like business jets were the ultimate representation of what a car meant to be. It's like, they were similar and different, but they all went at, they have the speed that they went. They had the avionics, you had the engines, you had the cabin, the dimensions, you had the range.
Yep.
You had the runway lengths that made on landing, on takeoff. There was like all these numbers of like this giant matrix. And it was so fun to figure out like what plane worked for what mission.
Sure.
And then what plane worked for most of the missions, what makes sense. So I would actually spend weekends at the lake and, I would just read up on all the different planes. Like I used to read up on cars. This is before I ever got into this. This is back in the Ricker days. I just read up on planes. It was interesting to me.
Yeah, sure.
So, Jason and Corey and that team come to me and say, hey, we've got an opportunity to buy half of this business. And the original business they got into was 37 employees, just this, based out of India Regional. We ended up buying half of Jet Access. Two partners owned it. One of them wanted out, and I thought, oh, this will be interesting. I get to know the business a little bit, get to know all the partners better. And there were two gentlemen who were not real hands-on until they happened to be there, and then they wanted to be hands-on, but they were they were financial owners until they decided they wanted to get into operations on a particular day. And he had two guys plus my guys who were running the business every day. And the older gentlemen who were involved in the business, they respected me. And the younger guys respected me. I said, hey, there was some conflict.
Yeah.
So I've got some free time. Why don't I just jump in and be a free CEO?
Okay.
I guess it'll be fun. We had a crude version of EOS that we used at Ricker's.
Yeah.
I was kind of probably before EOS was around, we kind of built this system that had very similar traits to EOS.
Okay.
So I said, we're gonna use this system. We're gonna hold weekly management team meetings. We're gonna pay attention to the metrics. We're gonna prioritize the projects. We're gonna assign things. We're gonna put to-dos. We're gonna get this thing cranking. And we did that. That was really fun. It was really fulfilling. We started developing the strategy of, and by the way, when I helped them buy half Jet Access, it was structured the right way to make sure that I wasn't also breaking my unsolicit.
Yeah.
But that gave me the right down the road to own about 25% of that business.
Okay.
So that was kind of the initial. So when we started developing the strategy, wait a minute. If you put flight training, charter and management, FBOs, aircraft brokerage, and maintenance all together, overlay best-in-class technology and a people-centric culture, nobody's done that at scale in the industry. This could be really fun. And I don't know if you remember this or not. There was something called COVID-19.
Yeah, you remember that vaguely?
Yes. And we're going along just swimmingly, and then this thing just whacks us. And if there were tumbleweeds in Indiana, they were tumbling down our runways. Our planes were grounded. It was scary as hell.
Yeah.
But we got through that. Then all of a sudden, the industry lit on fire. Like commercial was a train wreck.
Yeah.
And people didn't want to travel that way. If you had the means to travel private, you did. And it really opened up the world in a way that nothing had like that at that time.
So because you can survive, right? You came out on the other side. COVID really changed the market in a good way for you pretty quickly.
Yes. If we'd have had double the amount of planes, we could have kept them in the air. There was just more demand than the industry could handle. So it was a good time to be in the business, but it was so good it led to some really tough things. It was the best thing for the industry and the worst thing for the industry. So, I'll get to that in a minute. We continue to go along on this journey, and we're starting to solidify our values and what our strategy is, and that's. And all right, we've got parts of 4 of these businesses, and we've got a number of partners. And through the pandemic, some of the partners were worried about PPP and signing up for that. So I ended up buying out pretty much all the partners except for I want Jason to have Corey to have equity, and a gentleman named Peter Uberta, who was one of the original founders of the business and a fantastic human being. We wanted him to stay with us. So I ended up buying out all the partners. And, so that really got, finally a decision maker. Instead of having like 6 different partners, okay, now we've got a team that are aligned together and there's a decision maker when that's needed.
Yep.
So we ended up doing that. And also there's a gentleman who is a great friend and a great human being and I care and love and is still part of the story today, named Matt Higgins. And he runs a similar business across town. And so he's got parts of most of those verticals, but we had a pretty big charter management business. And he has pretty big maintenance business and a smaller charter management business. And he's got some FBOs, one really big one in the executive. We've got a nice big FBO down there. We've got FBOs in Nashville and Dallas, operations in West Palm, maintenance in West Palm. And so we got a pretty big company. And the companies were made to be together.
Yeah, sure.
And I got introduced to Matt, and he's in a different station of life. He's 68 and a half years old. And I said, so Matt's a toddler. He's a sales guy. I would tell that to him if he's there. Right? I hope you see that. And I love you, Matt.
Yeah.
But he talked for quite a bit. And at the end of the conversation, I just said, hey, if you ever want to do something different with your business, you're in a different station of life, please come talk to me.
Yeah.
And I get a call 2 months later, and it's Matt. And he says, hey, why don't you and Julie come down our boat, the Caribbean? Let's just get to know one another. I'm like,
Okay.
sweet. Sounds like a deal. This is going to be fun. And I go and tell Julie that. She's like, what if they put concrete boots on us? We're going to be out in the ocean with these people. We don't know them. Like, they could drown us. And I'm like, can you just help me out? Yeah, it'll be fun. We ended up going down there, had a great time. Actually, a funny side story. We don't know what to expect, what this boat's going to be. And I haven't seen Matt but one time over there. And so we fly down to meet him. We get there on docks of St. Thomas and text him, hey, we're here. So I hear often this, he says, I'm coming. I hear often this is, and Matt pulls up in this 6-foot rubber dinghy. And Daly looks at me like,
What have we done?
what on earth have you gotten me into? But we go out. He's got this beautiful catamaran. We meet with his wife, Miriam. Well, he says, do you want to go have dinner on the beach? And so we get settled, have dinner on the beach. We're having a few cocktails. I made sure I had less than Matt. And he goes, about half an hour, he goes, come on the floor, got to me. Yes, I respect Matt so much for this. He goes, Quinn, I've heard about you. I've kind of asked a number of questions about you. Now, you really did something pretty amazing with your family business. You've got a great reputation. He said, I get calls from private equity to buy my company every week because I don't want to do that. I want my people to take care.
Yeah.
And he said, I want 3 things. I want to stay involved in the business. I want you to take care of my top people. I want you to take care of all my people. I want you to take particularly care of my top people. And I want this much money. I said, Matt, what's your EBITDA? He told me what his EBITDA was. I stuck my head out. I showed it.
No kid.
And that was the deal. Awesome. And we stuck to that deal. And we both said, the deal is the deal is the deal.
No kidding. That's awesome, dude.
And that doubled the size of we went from 37 employees. And by December 26, 2020, in 2019, 37 employees, December 26, 2021, we're 400 employees, just shy of it. All 5 verticals, all wholly owned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just talk about they say Lordy from a fire hose.
Yeah.
This was 5 fire hoses banging at us. And with this, because the difference between the convenience stores was, highly capital intensive, not regulated at all, highly competitive. I mean, what industry has your main price of your main product out on the street for your competition and the consumer?
Yeah, the guy across the street could be a penny, 5 pennies less, whatever it is. You see everything I said.
Super low margin versus this industry, depending on the FBO side's capital intensive, the other side's now is capital intensive, highly technical, completely different employee pool, highly regulated. I mean, we have to have certain certificates for certain parts of our business. I had the same type of certificate with a slight adjustment that Delta has. Delta is a 121 operator. That means scheduled service.
Yeah.
They're an airline.
Yep.
Jet Access is also an airline. We're a 135 commercial operation. That just means we're unscheduled service. So we have the same regulations.
No kidding.
As a Delta, United, America.
No kidding.
So it's just there's so many businesses in a way all the same. It's people.
Yep.
It's culture, it's processes, it's numbers, finance. but there's a lot of nuance to this industry. And even though we have found now 6 aviation businesses, every one of them, the financial levers are different. Like a flight school does not operate the same metrics as the charter management, as the maintenance, as the FBOs, as the aircraft brokerage, as the charter brokerage. They're all, so it's like they all happen to be in the same industry, but they all operate. So we learned, so 80% of what we did in the past was this kind of one commuter operations. And I knew that business like the back of my hand. Sure. Now I've got to learn 6 different businesses. They are all aviation, but they operate completely differently. And the people become even more important in this arena because it's all so technical. It was high volume ratable in our old business. This business is just, I mean, it is, the right people can swing you 20, 30, 40, 50% negative or positive, in any direction or revenue or expenses. It's really, and it's been so hard. It's the hardest thing I've done professionally, but the most fulfilling.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's talk a little bit, just, Jet Access grew. You mentioned 6 businesses. So maybe just a high level commercial. What is it you guys do? What's the core of what you guys do?
Yeah, so we are the first fully vertically integrated private aviation business. And I could say that, and I can stand behind that, because what ends up happening is these businesses in aviation, in the business aviation side, they'll have a flight school, have an FBO, maybe a chartered management business, but nobody has put all these together at scale and really integrated them. So the 6 businesses break out like this, and they are all meant to synergize to feed each other. Okay. And that's the really hard part, is getting everybody to play nice together. Okay. So we've got flight training. So mostly actually what we do before, we just train private students, people who want to learn how to, be a, get the pilot's license and fly around themselves. We'd change that into a commercial business, because we want to build the next generation of pilots to sit in our right seats and Deltas and jets and Southwest. So we've got 7 flight schools in multiple states, mostly focusing on commercial students. And we pull the top guns out of them for our business. And we do FBOs. So that is, FBO guys hate when I say this, so I apologize, but I like jabbing them. That's the gas station for a plane.
Yeah.
It's the hangars, it's the fueling. Now it is really technical. I mean, cool. You have a $30 million business jet.
Yeah.
It's not just people out there with whistles who are, tugging some things around. It is a environment that needs a lot of process and a lot of controls, a lot of safety. But so the FBO side is fueling, hangaring, landing fees. We've got the maintenance side, and that is, wrenching on planes. And you have to to be able to do that for commercially, you have to have a 145 repair station certificate. And so we are a certificated business regulated by the FAA and that. So we wrench on everything from a little piston plane all the way up to Falcons and Globals, things that could take off from here and land in Dubai or Europe.
Oh, wow.
Then we have the aircraft brokerage side. That's basically the realtor for jets.
Yeah.
So just the same way you think about a home that will be represented by a realtor on the buy or sell side, we do the same thing for aircraft owners. And that is which is a really, really technical role. It's actually my like Julie is an aircraft broker for her, and she does a fantastic job. To be a realtor, you have to take a test. Sure, it's not easy to get an education, all these things to sell. I live on Middleton, and right next to me is a double wide. To sell that double wide, you need a realtor's license.
Yep.
Sell that land in the double wide. If you want to sell or buy a $60 million global for somebody, all you need to do is print out a business card, maybe pop up a website, talk somebody into letting you represent them.
Yeah.
And you can.
No kidding.
Yes, you can.
Wow.
And so, but then also it's so easy to spill big dollars, because whether these engines, the engines are on program, where corrosion, every model is like every plane type has its own personality. They may corrode in a certain spot. They may have a certain part that tends to go bad. You got to go look at that.
Yeah.
Where is it at? It's a maintenance life cycle. It could be 2 years away from a major event, or it could be 2 months. And that event may cost $2 million to go through that nature. So that needs to be reflected in the price. There's just so many moving pieces to this. Then, where the plane clears. So, and it's a really important part that there is a lot to do it, but there's few to do it right. We're part of the organization called IATA, where the best brokers are in, and they know that if you had this certification, you do it right. So, hey, we're on long time about that. I'm kind of passionate about that. Sure. So we got flight training, FBOs, maintenance, aircraft brokerage, the management and charter business. And that is, we're basically a fiduciary with an operating certificate. So our job is as an asset manager for individuals. We don't own the planes. Yeah. Our job is to manage the planes with excellence for aircraft owners. Yeah. And if they want cost mitigation by chartering their plane out when they're not using it, we have the license to do that. So we put together budgets, we hired the crew, we maintain the plane, and we hangar the plane for them if we need that. We negotiate that. Everything that comes into handling the operations of that plane, we handle. And then a plane should fly, 300 to 400 hours a year to kind of spread out the fixed costs. Some owners, usually an average owner is probably flying 100, 150, maybe 200 max. And some of them just say, hey, I own this plane. They operate a number of planes that they don't want to charter of a plane. That's fine. Yeah, we're here to meet your goals. We're here to be your fiduciary and meet your goals. But many of them are like, all right, I'm not using the plane half the time. Why don't I just, Airbnb it, charter it, and just spread my cost out and part it. It's never something that will make money. But it is there to reduce costs of the operations of that plane. And it can have a significant reduction in reducing those costs. So that's what the charter management side does. That is the growth engine for the company. The FBOs are the foundation. Yep. But the growth engine, we manage planes, all the way to the West Coast, San Diego, up and down the East Coast, Indianapolis. Most of our people think we're headquartered here and most of our operations must be here. They're not. Most of our planes are not in this state. Yeah, there's a spread across the country, right? Yeah, they're based across the country. Yeah, sure. So, and then the last business that we have is the broker alliance. And I think we might have talked about that a little bit last time, but that came out of a place of fear last year. So what we don't have all the relationships to put the demand on our planes. It's like we don't have direct customers. Yep. Mostly when we charter our planes, they're wholesale customers. It's NetJets. We're one of the few because of our safety certifications. There's about 3,000 operators in the world. There's only 64 that have our safety accredited. Oh, no kidding. So we're one of the few that NetJets, they will put their passengers on our planes because they come in and audit us every year. Yeah. And check our safety processes. Yeah. So, but we're relying on NetJets or Wheels Up or, Magellan, Cinchant. We're relying on them to, we put our planes out there, we bid on their trips and with their trips. And yes, this huge, beautiful logistics puzzle. Yeah. But we have some refill demand in Indy, but most of it's here. There's a little bit we have Florida, but not enough to really keep our planes flying. And so these companies use us as an off-fleet solution. So we're having tariffs last year like that. I was on spring break the week of the tariffs, and I'm watching the markets go crazy. And I'm like, oh crap, we've got this thing finally dialed in, the company. If we go into recession, we're going to lose some demand on our planes. How on the earth do I figure out how to put demand immediately on our planes? Yeah, right. So I'm up every night at 3 a.m. and finally it hits me. And this was actually harkens back to my financial services days. Is back when I was a stockbroker, you have 3 paths to be a stockbroker. You could be in the banks, which I was, and you get paid about 25% commissioned. You could be in the wirehouses. That was Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Edward Jones, and you got paid about 40% because you had to knock on doors and get the money. It was all right, go fine. If you built a big book, your clients trusted you, you can move to a company called LPL, Linsco Private Ledger. And they didn't give you all of your orchestra. They gave you a platform, a simple platform, account structures, and contracts, and you run your own business. Yeah. I'm like, nobody has done that for charter brokers. And to explain really quickly what a charter broker is, because we're talking about brokerages all over. Yeah, sure, yeah. So a charter broker is basically a travel agent that lines up planes. It specifically lines up planes for high net worth individuals. So You come to me and you say, hey, I'm a charter broker. And you say, hey, I'm going to fly from, Indianapolis to Aspen this weekend and come back. And then charter brokers don't have fleets typically like I do. So the charter broker goes out to 4 operators like myself to get quotes. And I would ask, how many people, how long going to be there? What kind of plane do you want? And so then I give a couple options and you say, hey, well, really want that, Challenger 300. We'll take that because a few of my friends are coming out. We want a little bit roomy. And I set that up with the operator. I coordinate all the passenger information. And let's say that trip is $50,000. The charter broker is going to put, let's say, $10,000 on top of that. That's how they make their money.
Okay. So that's their kind of commission. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, nobody has built a system to really benefit charter brokers, independent charter brokers.
Okay.
Most of them are kind of like the banks. They're getting paid 25, 30, 40%. You're lucky if you get paid 50%. You're caught a machine. Or if you go independent, now you don't have all the systems. You don't have benefits. You got to do all on your own. When that plane breaks at 9 p.m. on Friday night and your customer's taking off at 8 a.m. the next morning, you got to go out there to source. Is that right? Yeah. You have a source on another plane. It's just crazy. I'm like, wait a minute. We have all the technology. We have people sourcing planes. We have a fleet ourselves. Like brokers would love to have a fleet. Sure. We have marketing. We have legal. We have all of the financial mechanisms to get everything paid between all the operators and clients. We have all the financial systems. Why not employ the power of this 400-person aviation enterprise and give all the benefits to those charter brokers? Oh, and by the way, you can get paid 70 to 80% instead of 25 or 30.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, if you use our fleet, you can get paid 90%.
Keeps going up, right?
Yes. And I talked to my team about this. They're like, oh yeah, we've got, so that business was an idea last April. And we brought on the right guy, Darren McKenzie, who's, one of the most fantastic sales guys and guys with energy I know. He's been growing the heck out of business. And we're now up to 15 brokers on the platform. The revenue is fantastic. It's low margin, but they're starting to put trips on our fleet.
Sure.
It's come together so quickly. And I'm so proud of, I don't think a big publicly traded company, a private equity owned company, or even a small company, like we were the right company at the right time with the right tools to be able to come up with a platform that nobody has done in this industry that takes, that gives so much to a community that has not had the resources that we're giving.
Yeah.
And gives them compensated extremely well, and then makes our business reliable. So we got flight training, charter management, the broker alliance platform, maintenance, FBOs, aircraft brokerage. I think I got them all there. Didn't know 6. 6.
Yeah.
All of that together, we've got it, every bit of technology, put it all in technology. We've got a people-centric culture. It's all came together. It has been a wild ride. But it's just like, and we're now finally got it synergized. So it's been a lot and it's been fun.
It's awesome. So a couple of questions there, right? So there's 2 things I want to touch on. One, you talk about your people, teams you worked with, those types of things, core values. Your core values, what you're in business for. One of the things I've heard you talk about is you say them or write them, email them 20 to 30 times. So walk through your core values. And then I'd like to just hear, how are you guys living that out? I've talked to some of your team too, and clearly they know what your core values are. So it's true you're saying those things. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I'll say the core values first. Then we'll talk about them a little bit and how we speak inside Jet Access. And now our core values aren't something that is like plastered on some corpora or somewhere. They're really a living, breathing way. They're a construct. They're guardrails for us that we talk about constantly. But safety first. Take care of each other, relationships matter, do the right thing for the long term, and maintain positivity. We have to have the safety. We have lives in our heads, like you require multiple roles. So, and what we always say on that is, if something doesn't feel right, no matter what role if they think I'm not doing something right, you ask a question, you raise your hand, you push. We have that type of organization where it is safe to, if something doesn't feel right, no matter what role, you raise your hand. relationships matter. It's so funny in business today. And what I always like to talk about in this one is like our word is our bond. If we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it quickly. It builds trust.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny. It's like, it seems like people's words aren't their bond as much as they should be. And I know if we deliver on what we say and we deliver it quickly, that is a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Take care of each other. This is something I learned from my parents. And there was a Disney study that came out. My parents were always really good about taking care of their people. Probably too good sometimes. I got taken advantage of a few times, but hey, it all worked out in the end. But they also took great care of their people. And then I read a Disney study, and I started shifting a little bit the terminology inside our company. This is called like 2007, 2006. Harvard came in and did a study. Disney was always known as, well, they have great customer experience, customer service. How do they do that? And what they ended up finding out is the focus was not on the client experience. The focus was on the employees. If they took great care of their people, the right compensation, the right communication, the right leadership, the right advancement opportunities, the right facilities, if he did all those things and had happy people led to happy clients.
Yep.
And so that is just key to, and that's not just for leadership. I tell everybody in our company, yes, for leadership to take care of everyone, but it's also like for you to take care of each other. We're gonna treat each other with respect.
Yeah.
We're going to be kind to one another, not nice.
Yeah.
We're going to be kind to one another. We're going to speak directly. We're going to speak respectfully. We're going to say the tough things, and we're going to help each other. So, do the right thing for the long term. This is I think this is one of the reasons why we're having such a big growth in our company from when it comes to talent. Mm-hmm. And we've been able to attract two of the top 3 guys in managed aircraft sales in the history of this industry are now part of our team. And we're like kind of a new company. Like our company's been around a long time, but we've restructured it. It's a completely new company, sure. But 2 of the top 3 guys in managed aircraft sales in the history of the industry are now at our company because they believe in what we're doing. And one of the reasons they believe in it is there's so many publicly traded companies that are trying to manage this by, what do we need to look like this quarter? What expenses do we need to cut? And how we drive revenue, and that leads to bad things for employees and bad things for clients. Also, there's so much private equity in this industry because it's sexy.
Yep.
And so they're thinking, okay, how do we maximize cash flow at exit in 3 to 5 years? You can't do that in aviation. It's just, you aren't going to be able to deliver for your people, and you aren't going to be able to deliver in this industry for aircraft owners, because this is all built for aircraft owners. All this is designed to take care of aircraft owners and our people. You can't do that when you're thinking about how do I optimize cash flow for the next 24, 36 months.
Right. Yeah.
So there is fatigue by the employees in the greater aviation industry. Actually, I heard this in the conferences as my terminology, but there's like post-traumatic stress from because they're like, oh my gosh, probably bought this one, and it's bad now. And my old industry, I saw great examples of it, and there's a few examples in this industry. Duncan Aviation is one of them, family-owned, phenomenal business, and we're trying to do this from an integrated approach to where I want to be doing this 20, 30 years from now. I love what we're doing.
Yeah.
Do I want to grind as hard as I have the last 5 years? Probably not.
Yeah. Right.
But I love our people. I love our clients. It's fun. And when you have that type of runway, pun intended.
Yeah.
When you have that type of runway, you can impact our clients and impact our owner or our people in a very different way than when you have quarter by quarter or year by year types of time frames. So, and then the last one was maintain positivity. You might have guessed where that came from.
Yeah. Go figure, right?
But I see, what I mean when I say that is in every business, and particularly in aviation, all of our competition and us have the same problems. We've got people problems. We've got something's not working out with clients.
Yeah.
And we can get ticked off about that and get negative about it, or we can come up with solutions and be positive about it.
Yeah.
And if we have that solutions-oriented positive outlook, not like, gosh, dang it, and kicking dirt and not coming up with how we solve this. If we have that solutions-oriented mindset, we're going to win.
Yeah.
It's just, I tell people, I do every orientation, I still do. And I do every pilot in dock as well. No kidding. Actually, one of the things I say in there is if you're a negative person, this place isn't going to feel good for you. You're not going to feel comfortable here. You probably shouldn't be here. Yeah. We want solution-oriented, positive people. But we're talking about these values, not just in orientation, not just in .NET. We have a senior leadership team meeting every Wednesday. And those values are a construct of how we make our decisions. So we're talking about them in there. And like, hey, is this safety first? Are we doing the right thing for long-term there? Yep. Wait, hey, do we honor our relationships here? Yeah. Are we breaking relation to the matter? Yeah. So that's our construct of how we are making decisions. And then as I'm out in the field, I'm talking about our values. And the cool thing now is I've got everybody's talking to me about like, hey, Quinn, we made that decision. Was that, relationships matter? Or was that doing the right thing for long term? I'm getting it back to me. Actually, one of my proudest moments I done. So we bought Eagle Creek, and it was like 6 months in, and we've been really hitting hard bought the first wing certificate. We've been really hitting hard the values, and one of the bulljet access people was not following the values. And one of the people from the first wing certificate, Greg, I love this story about Greg, is one of our pilots, and one of the pilots said some like not values aligned thing, and Greg responds back, I don't appreciate what you said. I think you broke, here's Jet Access's values, and I think you broke these. And I'm like,
Favorite touchdown, right?
Yeah, I was like, are you kidding me? That's awesome. So I was a proud daddy mom, but heck yeah. So, but we're kind of, in business, if you just say something, one thing, it's probably not going to stick. If you say it twice, probably still like this. But if you're on repeat and the team can be on repeat, then it starts to become weaved into the fabric of the culture.
Yeah, you hear it, right? You hear to what you said. During meetings, your team are asking, are we violating this? Are we sticking to this? Yeah, that's when you know it's part of that culture. Yeah, one of the things. So usually when we kind of start to finish some things up, we talk about community. In community, you've talked about community from the beginning of your story. I have, right? I mean, so everything that you've done all the way through the family business to what you're doing now is building a community. You're serving your people, you're serving your clients, you're bringing community. It's amazing to hear you weave that all the way through. Different businesses, right? Different business models, and now with 6 businesses here at Jet Access. But the community is the biggest part that I hear, basically what you're saying there. You talked a little bit about technology too, in both businesses. I'm curious now in the business you're in, where do you see tech coming into play? Are things going to change for you in the next few years? Is some technology going to help accelerate some of the community building and client building?
Yes, it will. We're kind of entering phase 2 of where we're going next with technology. And we're doing some things in AI. It's like everybody's doing something in AI. Sure they are. We actually, what I said was we'll come back up again, and I forgot to say that. Again, when we put all these businesses together in 21, we ended up ripping out every bit of technology. Yeah. We went to, the only thing we didn't rip out again was Microsoft Office, Windows, and the flight training.
The same core you kept before.
The same core. And then we went Oracle NetSuite. Salesforce is a CRM. Ferrari of a CRM. We're probably driving it like a Ford Mustang right now. Maybe that is a Ferrari if we want to, sure. And then all new cloud-based systems in every single vertical. And we went dark for 6 months, didn't have numbers for 6 months. Scary. Right after an acquisition. Scary.
Wow.
But we got all that dialed in. We got the people dialed in, aligned around the values. Got everything dialed in pretty well by late 24, and then continuing to grow through 25. But now I've got to all right, there's a whole new landscape of technology that is at our fingertips. And one of the first places, there's so many back and forth communications and just it's something that has to be detailed, but it's not hard to work on our Broker Alliance side. And you have to align passports and trip times and catering and sourcing of the plane out to big databases. Sure. So the first place we're going is on the AI side. I think there's just so many, it just sounds so cliche and everybody's talking about AI. And I know not to be dangerous. I know it's important. And I know that it can do a lot for our business. But so on the Broker Alliance side, we're doing all kinds of streamlining of operations via AI, not so we can cut headcount, so we can grow more quickly.
Yep.
I mean, so we have the people we have, and they're awesome people, but for the amount of businesses coming in, we have to use technology to scale quickly. So we're using on that end. There's so many opportunities on the charter management side where we can use AI. So I mean, there's how do I say, actually just sitting in my ad. I'm sure most of the audience knows this, but like, it was just so cool sitting in with our head of ownership services the other day. He was just taking data from our flight operations and putting them into Copilot. And then he was asking him questions, and he'd say, and some of the answers are wrong, but it was giving us kind of this like, all right, where do we go really dive deep? Sure. He probably saved us 2 or 3 days of some analysts sitting down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're using that day to day. We're building some specific projects for the Broker Alliance, but I think we're just scratching the surface. But just that there were certain things we could do in technology in the old days at our family business, but like with all that we do here, I'm like, this guy is, it's absolute limit. Pun intended again.
I know we got a bunch of them in there. I'll tell you what. So before we get to what's fun, what you do outside of work, I guess I should have asked this early on. You know, it's a great studio. Thank you for being in here with. Why didn't we do this in a plane? We should have totally done it in a plane. That was so cool. Okay, all right. So that's a big one. We could go inside. That would be awesome. All right. So now, you know what? Let's just redo. Scrap this. All right.
To me, work is really fun, but being with our people gives me a bunch of energy. It really does. I like working on business problems. But my wife and I are blessed to have some nice acreage on the Fall Creek. So we're just a really long canoe ride up from Geist.
Okay.
And I love riding 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and side-by-sides. And actually, my favorite thing is my skid steer. Like when I need peace. We got a fishing pond, and I brew. Actually, what I did was recreate my childhood on this property.
No kidding.
Because my grandpa, they were both lived up in Columbia County, both my grandparents, and they were farmers. And so I would go up there and ride on his motorcycle and play on his tractors and wash his cars. He had a barn, and I had a 90cc Harley Davidson that I was totally driving illegally all over to gravel roads. Using his dump truck. And then we would mow. My grandpa and I would mow. Like I would go for 2 weeks every summer up there, and grandpa and I would just mow silently, just mow his woods. So, cut lumber. And so and then my other grandpa had a 2-acre fishing pond.
Oh yeah.
So I've got a pond on our property, about 2 acres. I've got a barn with motorcycles and 4-wheelers, mostly 4-wheelers. So my son loves them. And then my favorite thing is I have a skid steer that has a 6-foot mower on the front of it that will cut down up to an 8-inch tree. And most of our acreage is wooded.
Yeah, sure.
So I got to be careful not to mow down the whole dang woods because it's so fun, right? Yeah. But I make the trails through 4-wheelers and I clean them up every spring. Yeah. And I create new ones, and then I forget where they were because things grow up, and I create more. But that's just really peaceful to me. We've got a lake place down in Sutter, Indiana that we like to go to as well. But I just, that property, there's something special about it. I feel calm and peace there.
Yeah.
And so, try to be outdoors and try to work out and be healthy.
Good for you, my friend. Quinn, thank you for being on the show. I could talk to you all day long. And the stories are amazing. Hearing the family business, working through what you've done now. I'm excited to continue to talk to you where this business is going to go. But thank you so much for your story.
Yeah, be on check up around me. Appreciate it.